welcome to the first episode of Tell Me More of 2025. D-Dub and Luke are out, and so I grabbed the lady ministers of First Baptist Arlington, and we are having a good time here in the podcast studio. We talk about our lives, we talk about 2025, we talk a lot about flourishing and how we want to flourish together. So we're super excited that you're here, and we hope you enjoy it. Okay, welcome to this episode. We're in the studio, and I have recruited not all, but some significant ladies in ministry of First Baptist Arlington.
We're here.
And I'm pretty excited about it. So for those watching, you see the panel, but for those just listening, as many of you do, I've got with me Casey Fagan.
Hello.
Our preschool minister. Chelsea Judkins.
Hi, everybody.
Our youth girls associate. What is that what we call you?
That's
your
close.
title? And then Ashley Berryhill, our Director of Global Engagement.
Hello.
And Ashley and I are sharing a mic because there's only 3 mics in here. So 1, it'll be awkward and we'll pass it back and forth and it'll be fine. 2, we both offered each other breath mints before we started this.
We'll see if they can play
really
nice.
So we're just going to lean in, and she has the full right to just take what's hers. So I'm really excited about it. This is going to be really fun. You ready?
We're ready.
Yeah, let's do this thing.
So I thought y'all have, Ashley and Casey have been on the podcast before. Chelsea, you actually have your own podcast over in youth ministry.
That's true.
Called It Takes a Village.
It Takes a Village, a
plug for
podcast for parents of teenagers.
Love it. But in this podcast, you have not yet made an appearance.
That's true.
This is the first one. Mm-hmm. So I want y'all to introduce yourselves to our listeners and our church, and just tell us a little bit about like family, maybe education and formation, like what brought you to here, and just the whole package of what makes you you. So, Casey, you want to kick us off?
Oh gosh, time limit? 2 minutes?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, that could be the whole podcast.
Y'all.
No,
I can go.
Just the basics. Just the basics. Yeah.
Well, thank you for the invitation to be here today. Casey Fagan, preschool minister.
What's your maiden name?
Barry. As some of you very astute listeners may have heard me say that from the platform several months back. That subconscious.
You just mess it up?
Yeah, from the platform. Didn't even catch it till I sat in the pew and my husband caught me. And anyway.
Oh, you just said it and then.
I said Casey Barry and kept rolling.
I love it.
Yeah, old habits die hard.
And how long have you been married?
Yeah, 10 years in March.
Yeah, so pretty new. We're just getting used to it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, pretty funny. But I'm rocking like 18 or 19 months here at First Baptist Arlington, and previously was on staff in Houston for 18 years. In fact, little fact, January 1st, I hit 20 years in ministry.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, I know I don't look old enough.
Like 20 years in full-time ministry?
20 years in full-time ministry.
Casey,
yeah.
That's significant.
Seriously, like, how am I that old? But
also, like, none of us here are the new people anymore.
Right.
New on staff, or we need some younger voices. It's not us anymore.
Yeah.
So let's just sit with that.
So I started as preschool associate straight out of college at Baylor University, and also worked on my seminary degree at Southwestern, like simultaneously.
While you were working.
Yes, Houston had an extension campus, and so it took me a good 4.5 years because I was doing full-time ministry and kind of part-time seminary.
Okay.
And so then I elevated into the head preschool minister there at Tallowood, and did that for, I think it must have been like 13 years. And here I am. That's kind of what you said, maybe calling.
Your family, you haven't talked about your kids.
Yes, married for 10 years. We covered that. And 2 fun, full of energy boys, 7.5, almost 8, I guess, actually. Harrison in 2nd grade, and then Hudson, the life of the party, at 3 years old. And he comes here to the CDC, and they keep us super busy and super fun. So,
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk about calling?
I'll just be quick and say I knew early on that I was going to do something with children. I knew I loved the church, and it was like middle school. So girls in Chelsea's ministry right there, start that stirring of like, I think the Lord wants me to do something. I don't know exactly what that looks like, and I wanted to be super open to what it could look like, but he just kept drawing me back to children. And the more experiences I gained through high school and college, confirmation, and never looked back. So
yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that's me.
Cool. That's great. That's a great model for the next 2.
Okay. I kept it.
Chelsea, since you have a mic, you want to go?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm Chelsea Judkins. I work on the youth ministry staff here doing girls ministry, and I've been here 9 years. I started right after Katie, so we've been in it together.
Revolutionized this church together.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and Ashley came a couple months later.
That's right.
That's right.
Not full time, but I mean, we've kind of 2015 was a big year for First
It was
Baptist
a big
Arlington.
year, and we're still here. So
I know.
So yeah, I love youth ministry. My husband also works here. I don't actually know what his title is, communications-ish. So
We love Kyle.
we love Kyle. He does all of the
I don't know his title either. Media
AV,
director, maybe?
website, media,
Yeah.
social
Communications and media.
directs all of those things.
Yeah.
Which I'm so glad he has those skills. I'm grateful. And we have 2 kids also. Teddy just turned 3 and Lucy turns 5 tomorrow.
Oh, yay. Happy
So,
birthday,
For real.
Lucy.
For
5 years
real.
old.
Isn't that crazy? There was, when we did our new parent class, Nanette said, think about 5 years from now and where you'll be, and you'll be getting ready for your child to start kindergarten. And we started crying on the Zoom because it was 2020. And now I'm like, oh, no, this is happening. We're here. It's been 5 years. And it,
And you're getting ready for her to start kindergarten?
in the fall. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? It's crazy.
I'm processing my own emotion with that. So go on.
The days are long and the years are short. And
Yeah,
so
for sure.
How
anyway.
cool. Tell us about where'd you go to undergrad?
I went to the University of Texas in Austin and got a degree in English, so that really comes in handy with curriculum writing.
What
and
about
such.
English were you drawn to?
Well, before feeling a call to ministry, my plan was to go into publishing, and so that was the route I chose to take.
So more like a literature route than
Sure.
grammar. Is that fair?
And then halfway through college, I felt called to ministry, so I thought, let's just finish this up and get out of here. So.
I should mention for our male audience, UT has maybe a big game on the line. Does anyone know about that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Here. Is it this
That's
weekend?
true. I honestly don't know.
I felt like if there was a man in the room, it might have been mentioned.
It may have come up. No, that's good. We have a broad audience, and we need to appeal to all of them. Go football.
Hook 'em horns.
Yeah, go sports.
Yeah, it turns out Texas is really good this year. If you care
I
about those things.
loved it while I was a student. It was like a religion, truly.
Yeah.
It was unlike anything I had experienced. But
now, parenthood swallows it up.
Yeah. I'm good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great for them. Love it.
Love that.
Good. Anything else you want to talk about calling, or how did you land where you are? Because you've been pretty long obedience in the same direction. Actually, all 3 of y'all in terms of your calling and what you've been up to. Like you've been doing youth for a long time.
Local
right?
church has always been a huge part of my family and just the culture of what we do. And in college, I got really plugged into BSM. And Marcy, our BSM director at the time, was very encouraging. Some might say pushy. I'll just say really encouraging.
I know
and
Marcy.
Yes.
She's pushy.
She's the best. I love her.
Yeah, we could send this to her. Marcy, you're a little bit pushy, but
Shout
it
out.
has shaped all
in
of
the
us.
best way. And so she encouraged me my sophomore year I ended up on 3 different mission trips that year, and I had never been on one before. And so during that time, felt a calling to ministry, and she helped me flesh out what that looked like. She helped get me my first job, and then go to seminary from there. And so, yeah, it's been really consistent. My first job was as a youth minister, and in that experience, I thought, I really feel the most meaning when I'm working directly with the girls, and I love having a partner that can work with the guys and then working together. So it's amazing that I've been able to do that here for so long, because that is not always a position that churches have. And I feel like it makes a huge difference to be able to minister to both. I'm sure you guys grew up in youth groups that were run by just men. Mm-hmm. Maybe not, but it can change your experience.
Yeah,
to have a woman in leadership.
Speak to that a little bit more.
I mean, it's just the things that appeal to guys and girls are different, and so to be able to speak to them directly and understand what they're going through, I just think it.
Can we talk about this a little more? And then Ashley, I want to obviously interview you. I had a female youth minister.
That's amazing.
And she was part-time. She was I grew up in a small church in the country around College Station. Franklin is the name of the town. And so we kind of always had part-time youth ministers that were part of the Wesley Foundation at UT. At Austin, at A&M. At A&M. And that's how we kind of found them. We'd email the Wesley Foundation, which is like BSM. And so I had 2 different, both female, and one went on to be a doctor, and is extremely formative for me because, mostly in my small town, the women were in more supportive work roles. They would be the nurses to the male doctors, et cetera, et cetera. And it was extremely formative for me to have that experience.
Yeah.
And see that women can be more than just a supportive role in terms of vocation. And so anyway, I'm just adding that in. So I think having a female.
I also grew up in a small town. Our Methodist church did have a female
youth or senior
minister.
pastor? Okay.
Well, actually, I think they had a senior pastor who was a woman as well, but not while I was there.
Yeah.
But I had 6 different.
Where'd you grow up? Tell us.
Madisonville, Texas. Home of the Buc-ee's on I-45.
Yes.
Not all that far from Franklin. We're probably an hour away.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, that small town 3A feel.
Yeah, we were 2A, but yeah. No Buc-ee's. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, that came later.
But I do
came
think,
after my time.
and now studies have shown that, like, and since this is all women, we can kind of go there, that women in leadership in churches help everyone, all the boys and girls, gain more education, obviously, like, the softer things like a broader worldview. But I think younger women who have females in leadership at church go on to get like one more year of education by the end.
That's
Isn't that crazy?
interesting.
It's like a measurable.
Yeah.
So anyway, what each of you are doing is very important. Chelsea, I think what you're nodding to in the youth ministry is also incredibly important for our young girls.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Ashley, I'm giving you the mic, so y'all are going to have to keep some things
okay.
Yeah, we've got this.
I don't know. You got the format. You can just monologue.
Yeah. Okay. So Ashley Berryhill here. My life is quite different than a lot of people that I surround myself with, just on staff, just from a global standpoint. I would say I've been, 20 years as well.
Yeah, girl.
And just working with majority church world leaders and in the
What does that mean?
Yes. What does that mean?
What does that mean? It means people that are outside of the Western Hemisphere. Okay.
Okay.
And really just around more people that are have been persecuted, are being persecuted, are on the move in some way or fashion, migration, asylum. And so that's kind of my calling. And I think from here, I've been here on staff for.
How did that calling develop? I don't think you just wake up with a heart for the marginalized. You probably experience it and then develop it, right?
Sure. That's a great question. How did that develop? I think it really develops for my own self, I would say. My story is that I just had a heart, a desire to run after God with all my heart, and it brought me to those spaces. And so when we are really surrendered to God, He will bring you into spaces that you didn't expect.
I feel like we need to put a pin in that because that's going to, I'm referencing back to yesterday's sermon right there.
Let's think more about
Okay,
it.
we can pin it.
But what's the phrase when you run after God with all your heart? I'm not on the mic right now.
Yeah.
We're going to come back to that, but I'll make sure I got it right. When you run after God with all your heart, you end up in spaces you wouldn't realize. Okay, we're going to come back to that in a minute.
Yeah. Love that.
Okay. So that's what I did. And where that took me was Indonesia. And so I was in Indonesia for a good 7 years of my life, young adult life, and early married years as well. And so from there, I met many different people from all over the world, actually. Was part of helping tsunami development after the 2004 tsunami crisis hit in Indonesia and Thailand, which was a really, I would say, dark and hard time, just because of the landscape you were doing ministry in. It's a Sharia governed area, and they had civil war for many years in Indonesia over in that area, just a lot of guerrilla warfare. And then all of a sudden you just see this catastrophe happen and people's lives just vanish. And so how do you help communities build, and also how do you bring faith and witness of Jesus' love in those hardships can really mold a person. And then from there, different other experiences across the nation, but mainly really with working with asylum seekers from Afghanistan and Iran, trying to find a home where they weren't being persecuted for either their faith or their ethnicity, just the way that they looked. They were being gunned down because they looked very different than the main tribes around them. And so just really walking with those people on their own faith journeys, and also on how to find open doors for new life, to be able to flourish in some sense. I would say we can learn a lot from the global church, especially those that are from that are being persecuted, about flourishing, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
I love that that's actually part of the whole study, is that it's worldwide. And so this comparison of like, we're all alike in our humanness, and what does it mean as a person, a creation, to flourish? And that could mean some overlap, should mean some overlap even to people on the other side of the world.
Yeah, I think we can learn from each other, and that's what I hope for us as part of the global church, is that what I think I can bring to the church here is that we're learning from other cultures and other voices around the world to help form us into deeper Christ-likeness in a sense of our faith and how we walk that out in our own culture. So
I love it. Where do you want to go from there? This opens up a lot of conversation. I think let's launch into one. Y'all know me. I don't need to give my story. I'm here every week.
We love Katie.
Yeah. I mean, not that part, but yeah, we're not going to waste time on that. So if you want to know more about me, my favorite coffee shop is White Rhino, and we can meet there and talk about it. So
Gift cards accepted.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So all of us, I think, are pretty committed coffee drinkers. So, the way to our heart, except Chelsea's a Starbucks girl. Is that true? I don't mean to.
Yes. I have.
Except.
But not exclusive.
Historically, I have been.
Except.
They stopped carrying toffee nut syrup.
This is
which
tragic.
Was the love of my life.
How many years have you had a relationship with toffee nut syrup?
So I worked at Starbucks during seminary in 2013.
That's where it all began.
And that's where it started.
Which is now 12 years ago.
Yes. And so I got an espresso machine for Christmas.
When did you start dating Kyle?
Yeah, is longer with toffee nut than Kyle?
Yes, longer with toffee nut than Kyle.
We're still in the grief stage.
But toffee nut has left you.
Yes, it has. They discontinued it for some. Anyway, actually, the UTA Starbucks location had it for the longest, and every day I came in and they'd be like, "We have a little bit left. We're saving it for you." They knew.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So anyway,
so you bought an espresso.
I got an espresso. Today was the first time I used it.
And
so. It was adequate, and I will continue to learn it and get better.
Okay,
and
hopefully budget friendly.
And that's on record, because I know Kyle, he's kind of hedging his bets that you might not embrace the Nespresso.
I'm sure he is.
So
at this point, I'm
trying
just
to make like
a
toffee nut replacement?
No, but I'm gonna try some other things and see.
New era.
So open-minded.
We're gonna see.
Wow, that's a big. Let's just take a moment. R.I.P. toffee nut.
I appreciate you guys understanding.
It's a big deal.
It's been special to me.
It's a big deal. And we have y'all can speak to this. And let's just take a minute. Now, we are in a certain sorority of motherhood. And there are some certain routines and items, indulgences that are just very important to kind of keep you on the rails. And so I can see, particularly in the last 5 years, if this toffee nut latte with extra pumps or whatever. You had quite the order, because I've gotten it for you before. You want to tell it?
Thank you.
It's personal, but could you tell everybody what it is?
Oh, what it was?
Yeah, what it was.
Well, sure. Yes, since they don't have it anymore. It wasn't that complicated. It was a venti iced coffee with toffee nut cream and extra ice. But they don't. They're building a Starbucks in Glen Rose now, so there will be one near camp.
That's a big deal, because that's most of my the times
our
I've
friends that came to visit camp would
always bring me one,
coffee.
and that's how I knew about it. Yeah.
I found somebody visiting camp every day and had them bring it.
Now, see, it's interesting.
Now this year, you're just going to pack up the Nespresso.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I guess.
That'll be so easy.
So easy, and it'll be adequate.
Exactly.
My cup of coffee, like, within the first 5 minutes that I wake up. And so that's where
do you drink any water before your coffee?
No, should I?
Have to.
Oh,
yes.
no. January
Alkaline
new resolution.
Hey, we're
yes.
now.
Okay. Health benefits coming out of
Not
Tell Me
yet.
More podcast.
When you hit 40, you got to drink that water before you drink your coffee.
How much?
Well, my
Does it have to be
my
warm?
physical therapist that's helping me recover from having triplets, her goal for me daily is 80 ounces of water.
Okay. But how much?
80.
How
I
much
feel
to
like
start the day?
You have to go to the bathroom so
8 to
often.
10
That's
would
a
be
lot
a
of
cup.
water.
I'd say chug a cup.
Wow.
Even if you fill the
Wow.
mug up and just drink that before you drink the coffee. That's like 6 or 8 ounces, right?
My mind is blown right now, because
I'm not a healthy
my
person.
boys are up,
is what I'm
Mama's
discovering.
up, the Keurig is going.
They also say wait an hour after you get up.
Okay.
Before you add caffeine.
I mean, that's ridiculous. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. I'd rather be unhealthy and have coffee with
We're
them
here
first.
for some accountability.
Do you wait an hour?
I try to wait an hour.
January 2026.
It's
Ask
actually
me how
very
that's
different.
going.
Different day. I'm telling you.
What is that first hour of your life like? And then we're going to talk about Jesus.
Yeah, a shower could wake you up.
Yes,
you know?
that's exactly right. You shower, you get ready, you have your water.
You were changing all of my routines.
And then you wait to have coffee until you get to work.
Really?
That is
Yes,
typically what I do.
I'm sipping as I'm getting
Are
ready
y'all
all
you're
morning.
this side of the table? You're telling me, Chelsea and Ashley, that you don't have coffee until you get to First Baptist Arlington?
They're like on the way.
50-50?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I get
I'm
ready
usually
first.
almost done. Like
What?
one cup and
Put in the comments, what's your routine?
Yes, please.
I don't even know.
I mean,
Wow.
mud
You do it.
water is also a good go-to.
Ashley has a new health fad of the week, and for several weeks actually, since at least staff retreat, it's been mud water. It's just like some weird mushroom
if you
concoction.
want more information,
It's not
find
really
Ashley
coffee.
on a Sunday
I've
morning.
heard about that.
Ashley, yeah. If you want to be healthy, Ashley's really up to date on what's going on. I always get really
She's
weird
stepping on my toes.
DMs.
I will not yuck your yum.
I love that. We're here to support.
Okay.
We don't.
right.
what is it? We don't judge.
We listen
At
and
least
we
share
don't
the
judge.
love
We
for
listen and
coffee.
we don't judge. Mud water. Okay. I do want to talk about this is our first podcast of 2025, which
Happy
means
New Year.
this is our Happy New Year, y'all, and Happy New Year to the listeners. But I didn't say Dr. Wiles is on his way to Sierra Leone with Restore Hope, and that's very exciting. And Luke is starting his doctorate of ministry. He's got his first in-person cohort, so he's in Chicago. So that's where my normal colleagues are. But I'm very excited because we have us. But anyway, all that to say, 2025, we're starting this new flourishing. This one is rooted, flourishing together, I think is the.
Can I have a controversial question I thought we should start with?
Okay, so we're 22 minutes in, so.
Okay, this is just basic. As you said, flourishing. Yesterday in the sermon, I think Ryan Chandler said, or not sermon, in the announcements, he said flourishing. But pastor says flourishing.
Okay, let's hear
right
it.
or
I have
wrong?
strong opinions. What do y'all think?
Whatever the pastor says.
Oh, okay. That's a strong. Okay.
Flourishing.
Flourishing.
That's how I would say it.
Okay.
I think that's the right way
Not
to say it.
flourishing.
Well, that's probably a regional dialect.
Oh, get it,
Is
English
what
major.
There we go.
So is this the Alabama flourishing is actually really like we're getting it from the Alabama perspective?
I would say the other pronunciation is probably the.
Ryan's is more regional.
Yes.
Okay.
Flourishing.
I just wanted to start off on the right. January,
No.
let's get it
That's
right
so
for 3 years.
interesting.
Let's
The
get it right.
official First Baptist pronunciation is flourishing together.
Flourishing.
Yeah.
But we
like
love
a
Ryan
flurry.
Chandler and what
And
he
we love
brings
Ryan
to the
Chandler.
table.
Both could be true.
Shout out, RC.
Okay, well, so we're kicking off 2025, this flourishing journey. Let's take a minute. We've all been introduced to flourishing, at least through the pastor. Those of us that went on a leadership retreat, we talked about it there. But we've all taken the survey as well, the measure of human flourishing. And so, can I just ask you all kind of broad, like, of the flourishing measure and these domains that it's trying to tackle, what stands out to you? What do you think could be meaningful for our people? What did you find meaningful for yourself? There's a lot of questions, but you don't have to answer all of them. But what is that fair? Can we go with that? Okay. Where does it go? Go.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think actually I'll delve off of what Ashley was talking about, just this relatability, that all of these domains are things that we all deal with.
Like it's a universal.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we forget how relatable someone that looks different from us or lives in a different part of the country or a different part of the world, we think their life, it is very different, but there's still this connectedness of we all deal with these things, and it looks different in our cultures and in our daily, but this idea of I can look at these areas and need to evaluate, how am I doing? Am I flourishing? And that probably none of us, I don't think any of us are going to be 9, 10 across the board all the time. And so this constant evaluation of what is the Lord doing in me? How can I be better, do better, and what is He calling me to? And I think 5 years from now, we'll still be asking that question. 25 years from now, maybe still be asking that question.
Yeah, if we're always growing, that's kind of the question, right? Yeah. How can I continually grow and improve? Ashley's got thoughts.
I think also, additionally with this What I find interesting is the thought of environments, because when you look at everybody's environment around the world, it's going to be very different. And we know that flourishing deep within ourselves is really connected to God and his purpose for our life and original design for our lives and also the world around us. But sometimes, due to sin, that is not what's happening. And so I think one of the things that we can learn from during this study is looking at, I'm going to bring in the persecuted church here, looking at the persecuted church and seeing where maybe they're not going to be 100% healthy, physical health, because there's things going on. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, we can also see that today. I mean, I think, caring for our loved ones or our aging parents, we can see that as well. Just how do we flourish in those moments? I think those are the things that are coming through my head that I'm trying to think through. What does this truly look like when maybe we're not hitting all strides, high scores, like you were saying, in each category, but how do we make sure that our souls are healthy in it, no matter what's going around on in our environment?
Yeah, I mean, as I've looked at them, I've kind of done it through the lens of youth ministry, thinking about how important each of these are as you're developing really from a child to an adult. And so those close social relationships and like who is pouring into you, who's influencing you. If you're becoming most like the 5 people you spend the most time with, like how are you choosing who those people are?
Yeah, that's a great little statistic or saying. Yeah. It's got some truth to it. So
right.
For those listening, maybe evaluate who you spend the most time with. And
yes.
You're going to end up looking like them, whether you want to or not, right?
Because that could be the people that you work with that maybe you didn't choose, and your work environment can deeply affect you, but it can also be the friends that you chose or the family that you have. Anyway, but so many of these, I think, for our students who are just really moving from like concrete to abstract thinking and really starting to understand God in a totally new way, I don't know. They're important. They're important for us to evaluate and think about. I think what's going to be interesting through this process is looking practically at if I find myself lacking in these areas, what are the steps to take in order to kind of move towards a healthy place and start flourishing.
And that's one of the things the church is hoping to gear up. We are gearing up and hoping to meet some of those needs, some real practical answers to those questions, And taking the survey, you help people be honest with themselves, right? You don't create a problem that wasn't there.
Right,
but
exactly.
you hate to magnify something and help people realize maybe that they're struggling in an area and not have
and be like, man,
a real concrete, and be
work on that. Be better.
That must be tough for you. All right, well, back to the Sermon on the Mount, Yes. And so, which is actually very applicable and could help a lot. But we're gearing up to try to meet some of those needs practically. Because that's what we want to be doing in this next season.
I love that idea that these areas start foundationally. And actually, someone asked me, like, how does this apply to preschoolers? And I've broken down some of them. I mean, even just the basic where we've always started is God made me. I mean, I am God's creation. We all have to foundationally understand that. That's meaning and purpose, right? Like, now I'm not going to talk to a 3-year-old about meaning and purpose, but if they have that foundational core that they are God's creation, by the time they get to Chelsea, we're building on that and they're going deeper into how do I flourish as God's creation.
That's good. I like that. You were nodding along.
Oh,
you just like it.
I like it. I like all of it. I think one of the things that we also want to do is not only focus on ourselves, but how does this overflow in the flourishing of our community, you know, together, but also within those that aren't maybe a part of our church community, but where we're living and in our spaces. And so I think that's something as we grow individually through this process, how does that shape how we interact with the world around us?
It's really interesting. Call me a nerd, but I find myself already talking about it, like just in daily conversation. I was with some old friends this weekend, and we're talking about social relationships and how important they are. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about at church right now, and started sharing about flourishing. And I think it could be a great outreach. Because it's a base level conversation that you can dive in and bring the gospel through, and it's so relatable, even especially to our unchurched people that are seeking and hurting.
Yeah, it's practical.
Yeah,
and it's
super
not
practical.
Churchy.
Yeah,
literally, it's not churchy. That's good. I do hope that it helps us. I mean, the idea is that this year is rooted, that we might, as alluded to the sermon yesterday, explore the depths of God and be deep people, which I want to talk about. And that in doing that, the natural overflow of that is this chasing after God, as Ashley talked about, and how it impacts your neighbors. Literally, those that, I've got 5 neighbors. The way my house sits is like a catty corner kind of offset. So I've got 5 neighbors. And I want to know them and I want to love them, but then also it just our overflow into the world and the marginalized people and how we love the world well all starts from just our rootedness, right, in Christ. And so can we talk about that more, Ashley? You said a great line that we put a pin in, and I want to unpin it now, that you can say it and you can expand on it, but it's something like, how'd you get to where you are? Well, I just loved God. I mean, right? I mean,
so
that's what I heard, right?
Yeah.
And I want us to talk about that because I think that's that's what we want for everybody, right? Is that you just love God and then you become who He intends for you to be and puts you in the places that He wants you to be, and it shapes you. But is there a time from your own life where that was very true? You just felt like you submitted yourself to God and it led to a place you wouldn't have gone, and maybe fruitfulness and maybe hardship. I don't know. It's not a golden ticket, right? And how I just think that can be a very encouraging thing for our people, and maybe can spur them on in 2025 to think about, like, is there an area of your life that you can just submit to God and trust? What's He going to do with it? So, okay. I could talk about our own life, but I want to hear from you. You can start off because you already.
Yeah, you go for it.
Okay. So I think what did I exactly say, Casey?
I believe you said that when you're walking in a life of seeking after God, that it just was the right next step.
He takes you into spaces that at least
you don't expect.
Yeah. I think part of that, just practically what that looks like is, we say we're giving ourselves over to Christ and His desires for us. I mean, part of that is, you're reading your Bible, you're praying, you're listening to the Holy Spirit, you're surrounding yourself with good community. But one of the things that I learned from a young age was just when I was praying, I would be praying for the Lord to give me the eyes and the ears and the heart to see people as He sees them, and His hands to be able to serve them. And with that, I continually prayed, and then God gave me these burdens, which took me to these specific spaces that I found myself in, mainly among Muslim women or the persecuted or the marginalized. I think some of that is for you, Chelsea, maybe the girls in youth, and how just kind of the things that they find themselves struggling in and just journeying through. And you can speak some more. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
we'll call on you next.
Yeah, I think with that, we can learn practically. I think just the overflow of that will naturally lend itself into giving us a desire after God and desire for how to view the world as He had always intended it, and loving the unlovable when you think it's not possible. And I think that kind of just speaks more into how we can be rooted in Christ.
Sorry, I was thinking on your question about how when you submit yourself to God, He changes you. Okay, so when I was a little baby youth minister, I was 21 when I got my first full-time job, and I
wild. Now looking back, right?
Yeah,
wild.
Yes, they trusted.
At 21, you feel ready, and
trusted
you're
me
doing
with their kids.
Yeah,
and
looking back in our mid to late 30s/40s, you think, oh, okay.
Yes,
yeah. The grace of God, abundant.
I had a conversation with a student where I'll just say, so her cat had died or something, and she said it's okay because she's in heaven. But I was like, you don't really think your cat went to heaven, do you? And looking back, that wasn't necessary for me to say, but we grow and we learn, and that made her cry a lot harder. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's a cat. Anyway, which is harsh, but she told me I had no compassion. And I was like, okay, do I have no compassion? So I started praying for compassion because I thought maybe this really is a blind spot, and it was a blind spot. And then the Lord gave me a more tender heart, and so now everything is tender, and I don't love it because it hurts. It hurts to see people in pain.
Careful what you pray for.
And so that was one of the areas that I was like, well, maybe this is something I need more of. And so now I carry a lot of, I don't know, empathy.
Burdens.
Yeah. That I do think helps make me a better minister.
And you think
but
that was
it's hard.
That little girl that was mourning her cat,
Sweet.
God used,
Sweet
God
Olivia,
used sweet girl who's probably like 30 now, right? At
Yes,
least.
she has her own family
Yeah,
and
I mean,
kids and all that.
Yeah.
She moved on.
God
All
used,
is well.
God used
She
sweet
did.
girl,
She's okay.
but to show you a blind spot,
Yes.
and then you prayed about it. You submitted yourself
I
to
did.
God's potential there, and it turns out
I
He
don't know
gave
how
you
that
His
actually
heart.
fits, but I was trying to think of a real life example.
It fits really well. I
Okay.
think. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and God uses everything, right?
Yeah.
I really just keep thinking back, and I was listening to the sermon from yesterday, and this is like preaching to the choir because probably everyone listening heard the sermon yesterday.
We don't know,
But
yeah.
but if not, and if you know others who missed church yesterday, a lot of people are still out. For me, yesterday was like a do not miss sermon. It was this call to, we're going to get to talking about the depth.
Well, you go there. You go there as quick as you want to.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll go. But yeah, I mean, that illustration of being a snorkeler or a deep diver, I mean, I think I literally said ouch out loud, because all of us need to be called to that, like wherever you are. Where if you're mid-level, like just starting out your snorkeling, you can still go deeper. And
if you're like one of our really faithful 90-year-olds who have literally loved God, read the Bible, served Him their whole life, they're still going deeper.
Exactly.
So like you don't arrive. You know, you don't.
Exactly. Yeah. So I love that, and I just thought, wow, what a great place to start. A great place to start in January, a great place to start this 3+ year journey of just calling us to deeper and seeking after God. And what do we look like a year from now? Could we look different because we've sought after Jesus every day this year and onward and beyond? But I just thought it was so applicable.
It's good. I would, tell your friends, tell your spouses. It is a kind of it's an inaugural speech for a 3-year journey.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be around, listen,
Especially
go back
as
and
we
listen.
Head towards launch weekend.
Oh,
January 24th or 26th.
let us pause to promote everything going on at our church right now. Launch weekend's huge, and I'm really excited about it. And it is, we're all trying to get our mind around this flourishing study, but more importantly, just how we be church together and how we love each other and how we journey together in these deep relationships. And this weekend's going to launch that, and we're all going to learn more together and talk about it together. And so be here. It's free, but you need to register. So you can find that online or on the app and in our calendar.
I feel like if you're like, what are they talking about? What flourishing? Like,
Yeah, it's a big word.
It's
Yeah.
Honestly, when D-Dub kind of unleashed this to staff, I was like a little overwhelmed. I was like, where are we going? And the more steps we've taken, the introduction to the survey, it really starts making sense, and you find yourself talking about it. And so if you're unsure and you're like, this is a big concept, what are the domains? What's a domain? Come. I think that's what I'm hoping for launch weekend.
Yes, I think
that
that's
it
great.
makes sense.
Yeah, and you come with you don't have to have any knowledge walking in.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. But we're bringing in a speaker who this is his world, his job. He's a non-resident fellow with the Global Flourishing Study, and so he'll help us understand some of that. And he's actually, I think we're like 99% there. He's bringing a colleague as well, and her job within the Global Flourishing Study, her name is Kate Long. She is the church person within the Global Flourishing Study. She's based in San Francisco, but she happens to be in Waco for the week presenting, and so I think he's convinced her to pop up and spend some time with us in one of our sessions. So pretty cool. It will be really enjoyable, and you should be there. Anything going on in preschool you want to promote?
Wow, we're gearing up.
Midweek or whatever.
I was going to say January, we're back. We're going back to launching with a family fellowship. So January 15th will be family time in the fellowship hall. You'll want to be there. And then masterpiece electives, the bridge. starts back the following Wednesday, January 22nd. I'll let Chelsea speak to the break schedule.
The break will start on the 15th for our youth students. So, yes.
Love it. The care ministries don't start back to the 29th, just 2 weeks later. Yeah. But there's still a place for you.
And adult programming on Wednesday nights is going to pause or start after the launch weekend as well. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
I couldn't remember where we landed on that.
I think
you're right.
The discussion
because it's tagging.
Wednesday nights are going to make sense after the launch weekend.
You're right about that. Yeah. That's good. Really good. Okay, for the sake of time, I want to ask y'all kind of a closing question because we're already at 40 minutes. And it doesn't mean we have to wrap up, but we talk a lot. So, yesterday's sermon, I think what I took away is this call to deep, to be scuba divers and to be, and one of the things Dr. Wiles talked about is controlling our appetites. And anyway, my question for y'all, I'm just talking, is of yesterday's sermon, and you think about this whole year, like what do you think is most valuable maybe for our listeners to take away, to commit to be a part of, as you heard yesterday in this flourishing thing? I guess I already shared mine. Ashley?
I'll take it. Controlling our appetites. Yeah, I want to tag a little bit on that because I think that's such a hard thing for our culture to do. There's a lot of different appetites you could go into: success, power, what those really mean and look like in life. So part of the college ministry, I'm a volunteer there, but I'm also a mentor. And so I've had my mentee read Anonymous, and I've had a couple of them actually read Anonymous, this book, and it talks about appetites, and it walks them through Jesus's temptations, and it's these small little devotionals that are really profound, but just about what does it look like to follow Jesus if you're never recognized, and how do you become rooted in Christ, not to find the limelight, or success or money or power? Can you still follow Jesus if no one recognizes you? And it talks, really the premise is about Jesus's first 30 years of life that we don't really know a lot about. But it was in that 30 years he was cultivating this desire, this knowing about the Father, the teachings, and really just like leaning into that. Then we read 3 years of his life, and this ministry that he had, and so it's something I think that speaks a little bit kind of parallel to what Dr. Wiles was talking about with these Anonymous.
I was meditating on that sermon, I saw a comment on Facebook actually from a youth ministry page, but somebody was asking about, I have these older students that really want to go deeper, and a response was, there's nothing deeper than obedience. And so while you're thinking like, I want to learn more, the knowledge comes as you're obedient to Christ and as you continue to practice spiritual disciplines like you were talking about, and being in scripture and praying and having community and all of these things. But we also have to take that first step and do what it says and be active and be involved. And so I think for our people, as they're looking towards this, it's not just let me listen and learn and this is really interesting, but it's something to engage with and take part in and take the next step for as we go. And I think over 3 years, it can be really transformative to individuals and families, but also to our church and our community if we really buy into it.
I love that. Say that quote one more time that you found in a comment section.
Yeah,
it's really good.
I do think it was a quote from a local pastor. I can go back and find it, but there's nothing deeper than obedience.
That's really helpful.
So
it's tangible for our people.
Yes.
Yeah. I just really appreciated that he even addressed these, what did he call them? Pitfalls or challenges?
What do you call them? Core challenges.
Core challenges. And when he started with that, I guess that wasn't where I thought he was going to go. And I so appreciated the acknowledgement of this is going to be hard, and there's going to be things that we all struggle with. And so for me, in then thinking about these appetites, I think for me it was just an openness to, okay, what are my pitfalls? Where do I struggle and stumble? And so I think just a true, like, Lord, please reveal to me what you want to do in me and where I need to work, and then take that step of obedience. And so that openness of not just being so self-focused or content with who I am today, and to say, no, Lord, I know there's some dark places, then to be open to going there and moving forward and surrendering them to Him.
That's good. I think we could talk a lot more, period. But I think connecting emptiness as part of a challenge to managing your appetite, that when you're empty, or I guess I took that as lonely. Maybe I may have taken that too far. Empty could probably mean a lot of things.
Sure.
But I think when you're isolated and by yourself, all of these appetites or temptations just grow, right? And I think that's really a call. And there's a reason we kind of have taken like close social relationships and meaning and purpose as two that we got to hit right off the bat of these domains, because for our church and in our context, I think battling loneliness and helping people figure out how to have friendships is core and so meaningful. And I think really lacking in our church, because it's a mirror of our culture. Yeah. I think we can kind of be an antidote to a lot of that, and it's exciting if we can figure it out.
Absolutely.
Through the leadership of the Spirit. So, okay, closing thoughts? Anything?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Yeah, super fun. Love being here.
I want to challenge us to.
She is.
We're all like wrapping up, and Ashley's like, one more thing.
We need to run after Jesus a little bit harder. Here's how we're going to do it.
You'll find yourself.
Well, to tag along on the friendship line is, I want to challenge us to think about our surroundings, and with the diversity of just the society that we live in, really trying to initiate conversations and friendships of people who are different than you. Because I think that's what our society needs, is just a reconciliation of friends and communities crossing divided lines for us to be unified and to flourish together. So
teach us, show us how.
So much good stuff.
Okay, Chelsea, closing thought?
Nope.
It's going to be a fun 3 years.
It will, and we want you to be a part of it. So grab your friends. Come on, let's do it together. All right, thank y'all. Thanks for listening to the Tell Me More podcast today. You can subscribe to this podcast on your app of choice, or you can visit us at fbca.org to find out more information about the podcast and our church. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.